All right, guys, welcome to the NBA live stream. We got two games to go over. Excited for both these games. Hoping we finally get a good game in that Nets-Bucks series. That would be nice. And then Phoenix-Denver, kind of hoping Denver can pull us off so that series gets extended. But yeah, if you guys are new to the live stream, new to the channel, welcome. My name's DK. What we'll do here, I took a look at what we know so far. Really, the only piece of news we're waiting on is Jeff Green. And maybe possibly if Denver changes up the starting lineup down 3-0. Take a look at the Vegas odds really quick. I'll go team by team, talk about players I like, and then get to questions at the end. So let's just start off again with what we know. Again, unfortunately, Mitchell got injured there. They said he's available to come back. He said he's going to play Monday too, so hoping Mitchell can play. That's for tomorrow's game though. As far as starters, we got the same starters for the Bucks and Holiday: Middleton, Giannis, Tucker, and Brook Lopez. Again, Jeff Green, game time decision, and he's expected to have a minutes limit if he plays. So that kind of throws a wrench into things, right? He's min price. If he plays and is limited, how many minutes does he play? Maybe instead of his like 25-ish that he averaged during the season, maybe gets like 15 minutes, which would still, I think, make him in play, but then obviously a little bit riskier. So we'll just have to keep an eye on that one. As far as Vegas odds go, we have, again, Nets, Bucks, a 228 over-under. Hoping this game does not go 65 points under the total. That would be nice. The Nets are 2-point favorites, and Suns and Nuggets a 222 over/under. Suns are currently 3-point favorites. Oh yeah, Bruce Brown I think is still playable either way. Yeah, he might lose a few minutes for sure if Green plays, but I still think he makes for a pretty good value play. So we'll start off, guys, on the Brooklyn side. KD, Kyrie. I have interest in both. I think KD is more your cash game play. He's shown it so far. Just even in this series, but this season too. He just has a higher floor than Kyrie. Both have similar ceilings, but in KD just has the much higher floor because you can do a lot more of the peripheral stats. Disappointing game from Kyrie last game, but we'll get to him. I do like Kyrie for tournaments. Last slate, Kyrie was 10% owned. Right? I think Kyrie's going to want to come out more aggressive this game. Again, we'll get to him, but KD I think is the more optimal spend up of the two for sure. And 52, 50, 61 fancy points, and he had a bad shooting game last game. He shot 11 of 28, so it's hard to dislike KD here. And also, he went for 60 fancy points. I want to mention this. A lot of guys still got there. It was 86 to 83, okay? The game is not going to go that far under the total, most likely, again. So yeah, I do like KD a lot, and I like Kyrie for tournaments a lot here. Again, he had 1 assist last game. I think that's just an outlier. I think he's going to come out a little more aggressive. He played 45 minutes. I think the ownership will be low. I do. And the price came down a little bit to 9.3. I really like Kyrie for GPPs. Again, I played him at 10% ownership last slate. If we get similar ownership, like 10% Kyrie in a 2-game slate, I'll be all over that. So love Kyrie for tournaments. I think he'll be pretty low owned. I just still have no interest in Joe Harris. As again, you see the floor, right, when he's not hitting shots that last game. But yeah, he can have a good game and go for 25 to 30, but that's just like getting value at 5.5. So it just doesn't make a ton of sense for me to get to Joe Harris. So with Jeff Green, again, if he plays, he'll be limited. So it actually doesn't do a ton it doesn't affect maybe I would say Blake Griffin probably loses a few minutes, Bruce Brown probably loses a few minutes, and then maybe Claxton. I would say Claxton loses a few more minutes or even falls out of the rotation. But yeah, Blake himself, I still think would be a solid play. I think would still get close to 30 minutes if Jeff Green plays. He's been playing pretty well too. So I think Blake is a safer play there in the mid-range. I'm pretty high on Bruce Brown too at 4.7. He played 38 minutes last game. I don't think we get 38 again, but if we get like 30-ish minutes from Bruce Brown at 4.7, and he's a do-it-all guy. He's a good rebounder for a guard/wing, I guess. And he can get some of the peripheral stats too. So yeah, I think Bruce Brown's a pretty safe play there. Now, Mike James, you saw his minutes get really cut last game to only 12. He had a bad shooting game. I think that's definitely in the realm of possibilities. But I will say, if he comes out and plays really well off the bench, I think this is kind of a 76ers bench rotation where it's like they're going to go with a hot hand. Like if Mike James comes out and plays well, I think he could play like 20 minutes here. So still some interest in him. Recency bias should lower the ownership a lot, but I still think that there is a way where Mike James plays 20 minutes if he plays well here. So I do have a little bit of interest in him for tournaments. Again, ownership should be pretty low after being the chalk bust last slate. Yeah, Claxton. So he's probably the guy I'm the most worried about if Jeff Green plays, because he's not playing a ton of minutes already, and if he loses like 5 to 6 minutes here, that's pretty big. So I think Claxton would be the guy I'm the most worried about if Green plays. Again, monitor the Green news. If Green is out, I think you can go to Claxton, who should get around 15 minutes. Maybe a little bit more if we do get some foul trouble for Blake Griffin, which we did see the last time out. I don't really have any interest in Landry Shamet, a bad point per minute guy. He'll probably lose some minutes too if Jeff Green plays. Not a ton of interest. And then Jeff Green himself. Depends on what the minutes limit is. If he plays and it's on like a 15 minutes limit, I think you can make the argument for him because he's min price. So, yeah. Just monitor that one. All right, let's move on to Milwaukee. Real quick, for you guys who are just coming in, if you could, hit that like button. We're already at 170 viewers and 26 likes. Appreciate it, guys. Try to get to 100 before the end of the show. That would be very, very helpful for me. All right, so let's now, as you said, Paul, Lopez, Crowder, Holiday. Okay, yeah, that makes sense, right? We'll get to those Milwaukee guys right now. So Giannis, I do like at the top. I think he's a good play, but I might prefer Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton point per dollar to Giannis, who come in really cheap in my opinion. And the good thing we saw last game, those guys got extended a ton. We saw 43 minutes for Giannis, 44 for Middleton, and 46 for Drew. They barely sat on the bench at all. So I like Giannis a lot at the top if you can afford him. If you can't, I am really high on Middleton and Drew. So Middleton usage has been pretty good so far in this series. He's been getting a ton of shot attempts, up 23, 20, 25. He finally had a half-decent shooting game and went for 56 fantasy points. And again, 86 to 83 final, right? Imagine if that game is high scoring. So I'm just, once again, I'll be loading up on this game and praying it doesn't blow out or praying it doesn't go 65 points under the total, because this game just has way more upside. And again, the rotation got even tighter, right? The main guys played a ton more. Like Giannis, Middleton, and Drew all got like plus 5 minutes the last game. That's massive. And the price came down on Middleton and Drew. So really high on Middleton. I know Drew was frustrating last game. Trust me. I played him. Right? He stood in the corner a lot. I think he's got to come out more aggressive. I mean, we saw it in the first series, right? He was a guy averaging like 45 fantasy points. So it is definitely there. And this is actually a better matchup. I think he's got to be more aggressive on the offensive end. I like Drew a lot too. Drew, Middleton, I think two of the best plays this slate. They're just too cheap. If they play 45 minutes again, 7-2 and 7-6 in this matchup, way underpriced. Another guy that really stands out, Brook Lopez. 4.4K. He played 35 minutes last game. Again, the starters all got extended a ton. Now, will we get 35 again? I'm not sure. But if we get 30, that's fine at 4.4. Lopez is a guy that, not the best rebounder, but can probably get you 6-7 rebounds. He did have 6 blocks, and that's kind of an outlier, but he can block some shots. I think Brook Lopez is a really solid value here at 4.4K. Safe with some upside at that price. The rest of the Bucks here, there's no one I feel good about. So Bobby Portis at 3.8. He'll play the backup 5. He lost some minutes because Brook Lopez got extended, so he only played 12. He's not out of play. I think normally we get around 15-ish minutes from him. If Brook Lopez gets in some foul trouble, Bobby Portis could have a really good game because, yeah, he's a great point per minute guy. So I do have some interest in him, but again, more of a contrarian value play on this one. Bryn Forbes, not out of play. I think 15 to 20 minutes is a fair guess for his minutes. Again, though, right, if he's not hitting his shots, that is the floor. That's why I was so mad that one game against Miami where he was the chalk and he just lit it up behind the arc because this is the floor with Bryn Forbes. So, yeah, if he hits his shots, sure, he can get you 20 fantasy points. But if he doesn't, he can get you like 3. Who's next? PJ Tucker. So 33 minutes and 4 fantasy points. How is that possible? How do you not fall into a couple more rebounds? 1 rebound, 2 assists. That's it in 33 minutes. So obviously he's more out there for his defense. But he is close to min price. I mean, if you play PJ Tucker, what you're really hoping for is like 15 fantasy points, which he can get you. He can. I mean, we saw it besides the last 2 games. We saw 17 and 15 from him. Maybe like he just needs to hit like 1 or 2 corner threes, and then he's probably going to get your value. So I think he's playable. I think, he will be lower owned after 5 and 4 fantasy points the last 2 games, but there is a way PJ Tucker can get you 15 to 20, and I mean, you would take that for Tucker for sure. I don't really have a ton of interest in Pat Connaughton 3-1. He only played 14 and 13 minutes. It's just not enough for him. So that's where I'm at right now for the Bucks. I am really, really high in the top 4 guys because all 4 got extended minutes-wise. So Giannis, if you can afford him. I think Brook Lopez, one of the better value plays of the slate. And I really, really like Middleton and Drew Holiday. All right, so let's move on to the last game here, and then we'll get into some questions. Phoenix and Denver. On the Phoenix side, Booker and Paul, the guy that stands out once again. I don't need to tell you what to do with Paul, right? 7.4K, you know what to do, right? It's just, he should be like 8.5K. It's just way, way too cheap. He looks fully healthy. He's going to play big, big minutes as long as his game stays competitive. Love Chris Paul. Now, Devin Booker, I do think is maybe slightly underpriced too, but just Paul really stands out, so that should lower the ownership on Booker. You could play both together. I don't think it's the worst idea. I definitely think it's contrarian and not something I'm looking to do for my one lineup, but again, weird things can happen. We could see the first game go 70 points under the total, or we could see the first game blow out, and then, stacking the second game is going to be optimal. So there's ways that works out, but I just have a hard time prioritizing Devin Booker over Chris Paul. Ayton's just there. If he stays out of foul trouble, should play about 35 minutes. It's fine. I don't love it. Bridges and Crowder, I think, are both safer options. Both should push for 30 to 35 minutes. Both guys are good defenders, can hit some threes. Both safer options. I think both decent. Campaign at 4-1. His price has come down to a playable point now. Like, he'll play 15 to 20 minutes on the bench, and he's actually a good offensive player. So I think you could do worse for value. I do have some interest in Campaign. I don't think he's going to be super popular. And then, Sarge is only really in play if you think Ayton gets in some foul trouble. He's a decent point per minute guy, and if DeAndre Ayton does get in early foul trouble, you could see Sarge crush at like no ownership. And then Torrey Craig, Cam Johnson. So Craig probably gets about 15 minutes. Cam Johnson, 15 to 20. Both guys are not the best point per minute guys, but they're both close to mid price and both will play. So, both guys in consideration. And it's like, hey, Torrey Craig is not going to average a fantasy point and a half a minute, and he finally came back down to earth with 5 fantasy points in 14 minutes. That's the Torrey Craig I know. Craig, Cam Johnson. You're not going to feel good about either, but it's what they allow you to get in your lineup. And again, both should play, so that makes them playable, at least in this 2-game slate. And then finally, Denver, it's Jokic at the top. I think makes for a really good spend up. Do or die time. He played 40 minutes last game. I think we get around 40 again. He went for 78 fantasy points. Imagine he's the only guy that showed up for Denver. Yeah, I like Jokic. I mean, you got to make some tough calls with like him, KD, Giannis if you're going to spend all the way up. But I think Jokic makes for a pretty safe spend up with upside. Now, the rest of the Nuggets. This is where it gets tricky for me. I think my second favorite play is Will Barton. So, he was on a minutes limit last game, and played 28 minutes. I think he's full go now. Again, they kind of need him out there, too. They need an offensive spark. We know Will Barton is not afraid to shoot the ball. He's a good offensive player, and he's only 5K. And I think he plays 30 to 35 minutes in this one, so... Will Barton is the guy, my second favorite play here for the Nuggets. The rest, it gets really tricky. MPJ, playable. The price came down. Again, the back injury does worry me. The minutes also haven't been crazy on him either. More of a GPP only play for me. With Morris versus Campozo, as I've said, they're going to go the hot hand here. So let me just, again, this is DFS in a nutshell. I played Morris here, 1 of 10. I play Morris here, 1 of 7. I don't play Morris here, 8 of 12 and smashes. So, Morris, I think, is the guy that has a little more upside than Campozo, but he's also more expensive. Again, one of those guys will close. If you want to go to Campozo, I don't think it's the worst idea, because if Monte Morris struggles, we saw 36 and 29 minutes from him those previous 2 games. So, Campozo is playable. Gordon has been awful, absolutely awful. He played 36 minutes and went for 7 fantasy points. Last 2 games, he's been so bad. I think that will lower the ownership. I still think he plays about 30 minutes. You're just not going to feel good about it, but in consideration. JaMychal Green, I think, gets about 20 minutes. He was about 60 to 70% in the higher stake stuff the last 2-game slate. He was a bust, but he's a guy that can rebound the ball, maybe get some putbacks. Again, there's not a lot of value on the slate, so I think he's got to be someone you can consider. Same thing with Rivers. It's absolutely gross, but he should push for about 30 minutes. 10 and 5 fantasy points the last 2 games for Rivers. And finally, Millsap will play the backup 5. Should get around 10 to 15 minutes. He only played 7 last time out because they were behind, but decent point per minute guy. And if Jokic gets in some foul trouble, then maybe that could work out. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at, guys, for this 2-gamer. So let's see. Do we have any more news? Do we have Jeff Green news yet? Let's take a look. If not, we can do some questions. Still no news on if he's playing or not. All right, so if you guys are just coming in one more time, I'll ask if you could hit the like button. We're close to 300 viewers, only 58 likes. Let's try to get to 100, guys. Every single like helps me out a ton, lets me get more viewers on these live streams. So, all right, Gordon tried to call the team out, and yeah, exactly. Ooh, not good, not good. Best 3K plays. Are we talking 3K flat or like in the 3K range? Like, is 3.9K, is that what you're considering 3K, or just 3K flat? Let me know. Also, these guys like Harris, Gordon, and anyone having bad games, almost like Morris. Yeah, I mean, right, after bad games, the guys are just going to be lower owned. So Aaron Gordon can still go out and get you 25 to 30 fantasy points, right? Yeah, Cam Johnson, I think, is decent. Cam Johnson, I think, gets around 20 minutes. Paul, Holiday, Brown, Durant, Lopez, Barton, Middleton, Claxton. If there's no Jeff Green, I think it looks good. Now, again, Claxton's the guy I think I'm the most worried about if Green plays. I think he could get his – because he's already only playing about 15 minutes, and he loses like 5-ish minutes. That definitely makes him pretty risky. Is it okay fading Giannis and Durant? Yeah, I think you could and go a little bit more balanced, right? Those guys in the 7 to 8K range. So, I mean, you're not going to feel good about it, but if you fade the top guys, you can get like four guys in that 7 to 8K range, which I think is a pretty decent build as well. Favorite spot up at the top, I'll say Giannis. Are you playing Middleton and Holiday? I'm still working on my build, but I kind of like that. If I can't, so I'm either like, it's either Giannis and one of those guys, Giannis and Middleton or Drew, or I'm just playing Middleton and Drew both. So I'm definitely going to play one, considering playing both. Still working on my build as well. Yeah, fading Durant over Kyrie. For tournaments, I like it because Kyrie was 10% owned last game. Now, sure, he didn't have a great game, but I think he's going to come out more aggressive. I'm hoping so. I've played him last couple slates to get different. It hasn't really worked out. But Kyrie can still go for 60. So I kind of like him for tournaments. I think KD is the cash game play, though, for sure. CP3, Drew Middleton, Cam Johnson, Lopez, Kyrie, MPJ, Campozo. It's pretty risky. Pretty risky, that MPJ-Campozo combo there at the end. I have a hard time trusting anyone really besides Jokic or Barton, I think, on Denver. Definitely, yeah. Cookies or cannolis all day. It's not even close. I hope everyone who wins. Yeah, let's hope for a big night, man. Or hope big day. We have an early game and then a late game. Bryn Forbes and JaMychal Green are campaign and Torrey Craig. It would be the first one. Yeah. I think Torrey Craig can close to match JaMychal Green, and then I much prefer campaign to Bryn Forbes. Giannis or Jokic, yeah, it's a tough one for me. I'll give the edge to Giannis, and the reason I do is, again, he played 43 minutes last game, and that game was like so low score. I don't think both teams are going to shoot that bad again. So I think there's just a little bit more upside with Giannis, even though we just saw a massive game from Jokic. I think if this game goes to plan and it's high scoring, it stays close, you're going to want a lot of exposure to the first team. Now, I've said that every single time so far when the Bucks and Nets have been on the slate, and it's gone awful every time. I've stacked the first game every single time, and it's not worked out because we've had blowout, 65 points under the total. 4,500 left for forward. Ooh, so you can't get Crowder, right? Yeah, Crowder's at 4.6. Then it's just I think JaMychal Green's probably your safest option. Portis is a guy I don't mind as contrarian value play, but that might be one where you have to rebuild because if you can get up to Crowder, I think Crowder is a very safe play, but you're $100, you need $100 more. Paul, Barton, Middleton, Crowder, Lopez, Morris, Brown, Jokic. Yeah, I think it's a little bit contrarian. I think Jokic will be lower owned. I'm good going to him on the 2-gamer. Let's see. Yeah, top fade. I'm trying to think like who is going to be popular that I'm not really interested in. I guess Booker and Jokic for me. Yeah, Lopez over 8 point per dollar for sure. Jokic or KD, I would give the edge to KD. I mean, it's close to KD and Giannis. I think I prefer KD and Giannis a little bit to Jokic. It's close though. Like it's pretty close with all three of those guys. I think Jokic would be the lowest owned of the bunch. As I said, like you had KD go for 60, you had Giannis go for 55, and the final score was 86-83. So what happens if this game goes 120 to 115, and Giannis and KD play 44 minutes? CP3, Drew, Brown, KD, Lopez, Barton, Crowder, MPJ. Yeah, the one guy I just have some doubts about is MPJ with that back injury, but the price is to a point where it's playable. So, I mean, I don't hate it. He might maybe plays more in a do-or-die spot. CP3, Drew, Middleton, Durant, Lopez, Barton, Sarge, Brown, Gordon for GPP. Yeah, I think I'll give the edge to Brown there. Sarge, I mean, he can still get it done in 10 minutes, but you kind of need the foul trouble for him to really pay that off. Yeah, you can play Morris and Barton together. The two I wouldn't play together would be Morris and Composo, because one of those guys is not going to close, right? Whoever's playing better is going to close between Morris and Composo. It's been back and forth. So 4 and 5 games ago, it was Morris. 2 and 3 games ago, it was Composo. And last game was Morris. So it seems like it's going, again, back and forth. Harris love. Are we talking about Joe Harris? Not really. It should have a price point where he has to have like a good game. If he has a good game, it's like 25 to 30, and that's just like paying off his salary, right? Yeah, I don't think it makes a ton of sense. Fade Holiday. You don't have to play Holiday. I mean, last game he was like standing in the corner a lot. That was not good. I had him. That was super frustrating. He was 0.5 fancy points per minute. I don't think that happens again, but you never know. Middleton maybe is a little bit safer. He's had the much higher usage rate than Drew Holiday in this playoff series, and he's been shooting way more. But that doesn't mean that Drew Holiday is going to continue to stay in the corner. It's kind of like the Kyrie thing, right? I'm hoping Drew comes out more aggressive. I'm hoping Kyrie comes out more aggressive because they are cheap. I think Kyrie especially should be pretty low owned because I think everyone's going to go to Durant. Now, I do agree, right? Durant is definitely the safer play, definitely the optimal play. But I don't think Kyrie's going to have 1 assist again, right? If Green plays and Claxton, I think there's a chance he gets a DNP. If I had to guess, I would still say Claxton plays if Green plays, but I think he would lose some minutes for sure. Yeah, I think either. So I think what you do is you pick like 2 guys above 10K and then maybe 1 guy in the 7K range and then go value, or you go like 4 guys in that like 7 to 8K range and then slight upgrades in the value plays. I think either build works. Yeah. But if you're making me pick which one I slightly prefer, I think I slightly prefer the more balanced build today. Not shot the ball so poorly last game. Yeah, everyone did. That's what I'm saying. This game has a ton of upside, right? 86 to 83, and you still had a lot of guys get there. So if this game just gets close to the total, I think you're going to want way more exposure. MPJ and Crowder or Middleton and Claxton. It's Middleton and Claxton, but if Jeff Green plays, I don't know if I can do it because I'm worried about Claxton. So if Jeff Green plays, it might be the first one by default. But if Green is out, I like the upside of Middleton. Durant or Jokic, it would be Durant for me if I had to pick one for cash. Yeah. GBP, Chris Paul, Drew, Brown, KD, Lopez, Barton, Crowder, and MPJ. And don't mind it. Again, MPJ is one that's like, Jokic over KD and cash, thoughts? It's pretty close. It's pretty close for me with Jokic, KD, and Giannis. Like, if I had to pick, I would give a slight edge to the guys in the early game because I think he has a little more upside. But, I mean, Jokic played 40 minutes last game, went for 78 fancy points. So I'm not going to tell you that I'm super confident in my Jokic fake because I'm not at all. Talked about Millsap versus Tucker. So, I mean, I get Tucker. Tucker is probably slightly safer because he's going to play 30 minutes most likely. And you just got to hope he knocks down a couple of corner threes. If PJ Tucker can get 2 corner threes and fall into a few rebounds, he's the safer play. Millsap only played 7 minutes last game because Jokic played 40. So I think Tucker is safer. Like, full disclosure, I'm not playing PJ Tucker. I don't really want to do it, but I think I would give that to Tucker there, I guess. 34 real life points for Giannis. I think that's pretty close. I'm hoping the Bucks win. It's weird that the Bucks were 3.5 point favorites last game. They won, and now they're dogs. I think it's just partly due to that offense still like ugh. The Bucks have just been they've been choking a lot last few games. Giannis, Mike James, or Durant and Portis. I'll go the Durant Portis route. What's his price on FanDuel? I'm curious. Harris, Bridges, or Griffin straight up? It's Griffin right now. If Jeff Green plays, then maybe it's a slight edge to Bridges. I think this is the price point, right? So Drew's price dropped to 7.2, and he played 46 minutes last game. I'm not gonna lie, I am pretty high in Drew. I don't think we see that game again where he stands in the corner a lot. I hope not. Because in that Miami series, he was averaging like 45 fantasy points a game. Like, Drew can still have really big upside, and his price looks good on a 2-gamer. Okay, so Kyrie's 33% owned. That's higher than I thought. That is higher than I thought. Again, he was 10% last time I played him on a 2-gamer. Jeff Money Green. Yeah, if he plays, hopefully we get clarity on the minutes limit, but if we don't, I think we get about 15 minutes from him. Holiday, Milton, Bruce Brown, Katie Lopez, Paul, JaMychal, and Crowder. I think it looks pretty safe. I like it. Utility for 7K. Let's take a look here. 7K utility. Okay, so, yeah, you can't get Drew. It would be Ayton for me. I don't love the Ayton play, but if he stays out of foul trouble, he'll play about 35 minutes. Yeah, I would rather have Ayton than MPJ, and I'm not going to go down to, like, Joe Harris. So I think it's Ayton by default there. Irving, Monte Morris, Durant, Crowder, Lopez, Paul, Green, Barton. Like it for tournaments. Again, Morris obviously has some risk. There's a chance he doesn't close if he doesn't play well. We've seen the lower floor from Kyrie. You're pairing Kyrie and KD together. I actually don't think a lot of people will do that. My one issue with that, okay, so I could see that working out if the Bucks or if the Nets blow them out. If the Bucks keep that game competitive, you're fading the big three. You're going to be in rough shape, I think, if that game stays close. But there is a way. There is a way that works is if the Nets just blow them out. So I think that's the way that lineup works because, again, you don't have Drew, Middleton, or Giannis, and they all played like 45 minutes last game. So that is the way that lineup works out. If the Bucks keep the game competitive, I think you're going to be drawing dead. I would guess Booker is going to be pretty low owned because Paul really stands out, right? Chris Paul at 7.4 is just like it's a clear play, right? And not like the thing with that is most people are not going to want to play Paul and Booker together unless you're just stacking the late game. So I would guess Booker is going to be low owned. Again, I never look at ownership or projections. I would say maybe 20% for Booker. Thoughts on Chris Paul tonight? I think he's the best play or one of the best plays of the slate. Maybe the best play. It's just too cheap for guys going to play 35 minutes. Thoughts on Jokic? Good for a spin up. I have a heart it's really close with him, Giannis and KD. And if I had to, gun to my head, I would give the edge to Giannis and KD because I like the game environment a little bit more. They just had Jokic eating. Well, looking for shooting guard under 3.9. I think the safest is Rivers. He'll play the most minutes. He can get you 5 to 10 fantasy points. You're not going to feel good about it, but you're not going to feel good about a lot of the value on this one. Crowder, Campozo, Payne, or Bryn Forbes for tournaments. Wait, Crowder, Campozo / Payne, or Blake Forbes? I would go the Crowder. Yeah, I would go the first one. Brown, Crowder, or Barton? I like all three. I think all three are really good values. That's a tough question. I'll go Will Barton, but I like all those. Those are three of my favorite value plays: Brown, Crowder, and Barton. Like, that is the value I want to be in. I don't want to live in the 3K range. I think there's a lot of good value in that 4K range. So let's close it out with this. Again, appreciate everyone coming to check it out. We have 370 viewers right now, but so thank you guys for all checking out the live stream. Yeah, like Brooke Lopez, Jay Crowder, Bruce Brown, Will Barton, even Blake Griffin. Like this is where I want to be for value. I don't want to be down here. Now you might have to play one of these guys, but like I don't want to build a lineup where I'm building superstars and scrubs and have to play like 2 or 3 guys down here. I don't think it's worth it because I think the value is really good in guys like Brolo, Crowder, Brown, Barton, Bridges, Blake Griffin. That is the value I want to be on if you can. I don't want to play multiple guys below 4K because there's no one I really feel good about down there. All right, so let's see. Do we have Jeff Green news? I'll check one more time. If not, again, thank you guys for all checking out the live stream. I appreciate it. Appreciate everyone coming and leaving the like button as well. Let's see. Jeff Green is available to play. Okay, so he's available to play. Expected to have a minutes limit. Again, he normally plays about 25-ish minutes, 25 to 30. I think we get about 15-ish minutes, which does make him playable. Now, what that does, though, I think Blake Griffin probably loses a few minutes. I think Bruce Brown probably loses a few minutes. I think Claxton loses some minutes. I think Claxton's the most affected because he was only playing about 15 minutes. So if he goes down from like 15 to like 8 minutes, kind of unplayable. So, and we see the Nets showing they want to go small ball with Jeff Green. So Claxton is the guy I'm most worried about with Jeff Green playing. And again, Jeff Green himself, I do think is playable at the flat min. I think a fair guess for his minutes is around 15. So that's where I'm at, guys. Thank you again for checking it out, live stream. Good luck today, and I'll see you guys back here tomorrow. I think we got another 2-gamer, so I'll see you guys all then. Thanks again.